Mr. Speaker, sir, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Cabinet colleagues, members of the August House, I rise to support the 2019 and 2020 budget. Mr. Speaker, sir, the government since its election in 2014 has remained steadfast in its commitment to education sector. We have signalled that education is the key to unlock the economic potential of Fiji. A well-educated society is a society at peace with itself, which competes with the best in the world and which encourages and supports all parts of the society to aim high and achieve our dreams. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji will continue to grow and improve education, developing quality education, as this is what this government is committed to do. We have said that staying the course, being consistent, are key elements of this government's achievements in our agenda. Mr. Speaker, sir, much has been said by our media and our financial analysts about the reduction in our budget. This does not look further than the numbers into the outcomes, impacts and achievements. It does not also address the need for us to consolidate the significant growth we have experienced in the education sector and the opportunities presented to find new and more efficient ways of delivering quality education, improving service delivery without increasing costs. Mr. Speaker, sir, this government has allocated to the ministry an average of 12% of the national budget from 2012 till like. Like the economy, the ministry's budget has grown over that period from 257 million in 2012 to the proposed 467 million for the 2019-2020 financial year. This is indeed consistent. In 2014, Mr. Speaker, sir, we saw the introduction of free education and associated initiatives. This led to an increase in the ministry's budget of just over 101 million. That is vision and a commitment to invest in our nation's future. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are focused on the outcomes and not just the numbers. So allow me to outline some of the outcomes of our investment. From 2014, we've had a year-on-year average increase in the enrollment of girls at a rate of 3% each year, a staggering increase of 16% over the last 6 years. Formalizing our commitment to early childhood care and education has seen an increase in the number of students enrolled from 1,000 to over 19,000. By opening the doors to education, we've seen a continuous increase of 1% annually in primary and secondary school enrollments. And of course, this is good news for the future of our economy and country. Our students with special education needs have also taken advantage of opening up education with an increase of 87% over the last 5 years. Our teacher numbers have also increased over the same period by 30% to 13,589 to date. Mr. Speaker, said there has been continuous growth in the investment that this government has made in the higher education sector. Here too, this government has opened the doors to higher education wide for all Fijians regardless of their economic status. The consolidation of scholarships and loans under the Tertiary Scholarships and Loans Board has led to significant changes in our ability to build a smarter Fiji. Again, Mr. Speaker, say the impact has been incredible. In 2014, we assisted 5,940 students. In 2019, we are assisting 25,471 students, an increase of 328%. This has been achieved through the cumulative budget allocation from 2014 to now of 713 million, a real kickstart to our economy. Mr. Speaker, said the real challenge in the education sector budget, including the ministry, TSLB and higher education. This has shown an increase to 1 billion in this current financial year from a base of 321 in 2012. In line with the Incan Declaration of 2015, we have met the aspiration goal of at least 4 to 6% of GDP and or at least 15 to 20% of total public expenditure to education. Mr. Speaker, in 2012, our budget for the education sector was 15% of our public expenditure. In this current financial year, it is 22%, and the next financial year, it will be 21%. We have exceeded the goal within 4 years, and that is indeed an achievement that this House should celebrate. So yes, Mr. Speaker, our budget requires us to be more creative, to seek our greater efficiencies, and to root out wastage. However, we will also complete the rehabilitation work necessitated as a result of TC Winston, and this budget is therefore no longer required. Similarly, with the transfer of Technical Colleges of Fiji to the Fiji National University, the budget for technical colleges is no longer required. In the Ministry and the TSLB in particular, we are moving to greater automation. We are working with the technologically illiterate generation going to higher education, and so online applications and communications do make sense. Within the Ministry, with a workforce of now 14,000, we need to get smart and use technology to manage our operations. We are contributing significantly, Mr. Speaker, to the development of the Human Resources Management Information System together with the Ministry of Health and Medical Services. This, of course, will be rolled out across all ministries, contributing to greater efficiencies across the board. The Honourable Attorney General and Minister of Economy focused on the issues of fraud in his budget address. It is a sad state of affairs when we have to develop new initiatives with an underlying requirement to address fraud from the start. Mr. Speaker, we have students as young as 5 years old in our bus stations selling their e-ticket for as little as $5, regardless of the amount of money still on the card. An elder sibling, Mr. Speaker, will borrow his or her younger sibling's e-ticket to go to university when he or she already has his transport assistance from TSLB or is not entitled to such assistance. The LTA has found several instances of this happening. It is a sad indictment that LTA has to now employ an additional 100 enforcement officers due to the level of fraud on our transport system. Students encouraged by their parents will tap the e-ticket twice, one for the student and one for the parent to get a subsidized trip. As parents, we all need to take responsibility for what we teach our children. Values and values education should and must begin at home. So does it matter that one tap worth $4 is perhaps deemed to be unimportant? That one tap becomes 5 taps in a week worth $20 or $80 in a month? If we get it away with it once, we will try again, and it can become $840 in an academic year for one parent. Mr. Speaker, due to the disregard for something which is given for free, when it is actually at the cost of taxpayers, the Ministry and Vodafone deal with 1,000 e-tickets being lost a week, or 42,000 tickets in an academic year being lost. The total number of students benefiting from the transport assistance is well over 100,000, yet we have to replace 42,000 e-tickets a year. The policy of free replacements was changed last year to one replacement at no cost, and after that, the parent has to pay $5. How much time and money does this waste replacing 1,000 e-tickets a week? Mr. Speaker, we are investigating ways in which we can tighten up the transport assistance system further in consultation with LTA, FRCS, the Fiji Bus Operators Association, Vodafone, Department of Information, the Office of the Attorney General, and of course our ministry will be making announcements to this effect in due course. I'd also like to acknowledge the financial contributions made by the Fiji Bus Operators Association and Vodafone to the Transport Assistance Program, which has made a significant difference in the lives of our students and their families. Moving on, Mr. Speaker, the government has invested in what has become now known as FEG, or Free Education Grant. This is an amount of money per student allocated to a school to use for. 30% of that is for administration and operations, 20% for building and compound maintenance, 15% for IT and computers, 10% for library, 10% for PMEC and science equipment, and 15% for stationery. The amounts vary between primary and secondary and vocational schools and aim to achieve the economies of scale in larger schools. This is largely managed by School Management Committee and the head of the school. The ministry undertakes unannounced audits to ensure that there is compliance to the School Management Handbook. Mr. Speaker, currently we have centralized the free education grant of 34 schools and having recently decentralized 50. It is said that we have to do this due to maladministration of the FEG by school managements, sometimes aided and abetted by the school head. We are all obliged to maintain fiscal discipline and accountability for public funds. Such funding must be used in the best interest of the school, yet when we visit schools, we see the compound in a poor state, the buildings in need of a lot of tender love and care, schools without computers or without insufficient library books. Mr. Speaker, in recent inductive research, we have identified schools which have retained amounts of the free education grant from one year to the next. This can be anything from $58,000 to a few dollars in 1 year. The ministry will be considering a policy to address this as it presents a challenge. Should schools fully expend the free education grant in the year in which it is allocated. This is the responsible thing to do in order to make sure all critical areas of the school's operations are funded. It implies that some schools are cutting back on expenditure in some areas to fund others. So does this mean that they can do without funding in these areas? Or should the ministry allow this to continue, but through an approval process? I will be discussing with my ministry this new policy to ensure that funding is fully used in a transparent and accountable way as per the allocations or is returned to the Ministry of Economy, or that the first payment of the free education grant is reduced by the amount of savings accrued. This is the responsible way to operate, Mr. Speaker, and perhaps we will be able to introduce incentives for schools who do more with less. Grants need to be used prudently for the benefit of the students. Mr. Speaker, I'm also delighted to inform the House that there are moves to revive the School Managers Association, and I look forward to engaging with the leadership to address areas of common interest. Mr. Speaker, we have a few new initiatives which have been included in our budget, as our intention is to consolidate and build for the future. These new initiatives are aimed to build on the values we as Fijians hold dear. With support from the Climate Change Unit in the Ministry of Economy, we will work to augment the climate change curriculum, which runs from upper primary into secondary. We want, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the lead Fiji has given the world through COP23 is continued in the leadership we show in climate change in our classrooms. Also included, Mr. Speaker, is the confidence building in public speaking. Those of us in this August Parliament know how important this is. We need to provide opportunities to our Year 12 and 13 students to get the exposure to public speaking, which will stand them in good stead in the next chapter of their lives, in higher education or the world of work. Speaking in front of your schoolmate is a very difficult proposition from speaking to people you do not know. It requires not only confidence, but practice and research. We will work with relevant organizations on a pilot this financial year and link it to other programs we run in partnership, for example, with Leadership Fiji, FBC, and Film Fiji. Mr. Speaker, we also know the importance of food security. I think back and remember how we used to get involved in school gardens, and this led us to continuing the same practices at home. I welcome the opportunity for cooperation with the Ministry of Agriculture on this project, as we will work to instill a sense of self-reliance in our students, that they can grow useful crops. The competition rules will help to promote teamwork, creative thinking, and promote entrepreneurship and focus on food security, and to develop a culture of growing Fijian produce and enterprise. Mr. Speaker, we want to see our children, we want to see our students selling their produce at the market and plowing the profit back into the school. We want to see students assessing the value of produce which they put on the table in the boarding schools and selling any excess for the benefit of the school. We want to see students planting flowers and vegetables at home and then selling them to earn an income for themselves or put into savings for the inevitable rainy days. This is not just about a school competition, Mr. Speaker. It is about lifelong learning, ensuring a healthy diet, and of course, an avenue for making an income. Mr. Speaker, we also hope that students will learn about what plants grow best in what climates, different types of soils which require irrigation, those which can provide 2 or 3 harvests in a year, those which should be grown in shade or sun, those which require pruning. Above all, we want our children, we want our students to learn about organic farming, and I'm sure my honourable colleagues will promote that also through the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, we have addressed the damage wreaked by TC Winston, Kenny, Josie and Geeta, with 15 schools yet to be completed by the year of 2019. As I've said this before, this has been a major undertaking with the construction of 400 new buildings and more than 950 existing buildings being upgraded. This construction work has added value to the private sector and to the economy, and Mr. Speaker, we will have to build back better. Mr. Speaker, please allow me to clarify on a statement made by Honourable Bulitavu that we still have children studying in tents. I can assure the House that to date, since the beginning of the school year, we've had no child studying under a tent anywhere across the country. So it's a blatant lie. The intent behind that statement from Honourable Bulitavu, I'm not sure, but it's of course there to mislead the people. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry has begun on a school-wide infrastructure audit, probably the first of its kind, audit beginning with our government schools. And Honourable Bulitavu did mention ACS. Yes, these are planned projects that don't happen overnight. And I can refute the claims by Honourable Bulitavu that I did not respond. I did say the team will be meeting to talk about the issues at ACS hostel. In the new financial year, Mr. Speaker, greater impetus will be generated with the support of the Ministry of Economy. This will enable us to have a baseline of information on which we can make evidence-based decisions on which schools really need the most assistance from our government. In parallel, Mr. Speaker, we hope to be able to get the necessary expertise to plan where we need new schools. We know of the rural-urban drift, and we need to analyze the impact of this. We know that we are creating new housing developments, and these need to be included. These need to include education and health facilities. With this forward planning, we will be able to plan and budget better. Mr. Speaker, say in the proposed budget, we are still to receive substantial funding for schools. This covers Bauth Central College, upgrade and maintenance of school facilities, construction of new school facilities, as well as finishing the rehabilitation works. This amount of about $43 million is welcome and will be jointly planned and implemented by the Ministry and the Ministry of Economy. Mr. Speaker, I have spoken before on the importance of reviewing our curriculum and to modernize it to equip our students with the skills they need in the global village in which we live. The Honorable Attorney General announced last month that the World Bank will be working with us on this initiative. It will not be an easy task, as we will need not only to review the content of the curriculum, but to address infrastructure needs and the upskilling of teachers to deliver the new curriculum. This will need to be well planned, and the allocation in the budget will support this process. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, we've already started to move to more technology-enabled learning. We have started to convert our textbooks into e-books. This will enable our students to read at home on the devices or on the computer or in the IT lab in school. As we plan to use greater technology, we will need to address internet connections, hardware and teaching skills in our remote and maritime areas, and we are committed to do this. Mr. Speaker, with our newly installed Council for our National University, I am confident that FNU will rise to new heights. To support this, the largest grant is augmented by funding for students through the TSLB. The capital grant for Lambasa campus will add to the reach of FNU and support government's Look North policy. Mr. Speaker, we acknowledge the policy changes proposed by the budget speech for scholarships and loans. Again, as a result of the ongoing consolidation and review process, we are able to address wastage and ensure a more equitable allocation in funding. The change to study where you live will ensure that new students study where there is a program available in their vicinity as a priority. The policy to cease funding for programs which do not generate credits towards a certificate, diploma, or bachelor's degree will ensure that we are not wasting money on our students having to do the same course again to get the credits. In the course of 2020, working to ensure that all work through year 13 will ensure that we remove duplication of services. This is our new way of doing business. Mr. Speaker, the Fiji First government has fully opened the doors of education to all Fijians. We continue to ensure we level the playing fields for all our students, leaving no one behind. We have met the aspiration of an education sector budget equivalent of 21% of public expenditure. We are now being challenged to continue to improve service delivery, and we willingly embrace this challenge with the budget proposed. Mr. Speaker, with these words, I commend the 2019 and 2020 budget to Parliament for consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you.